La pa pa ra pa pa ra pa pa. Hey, 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 hey. Jordan Chariton here, live, 5 o'clock on the East Coast. And boy, what a day. What a day. Let me make sure I am live on YouTube because I don't want anyone to miss what I believe will be a memorable broadcast. Let me know if you can see me.
On YouTube.
Let me know if you can hear me. I've been waiting all day to come to you and give you this important warning. If nobody's warned you yet, I want to make sure you are duly warned, especially if you're living in America, because I know I have friends in Scotland. Someone just said hello from Scotland. So I am about to give you a firm warning. And by the way, I'm not feeling great. I've been sick for about a week. So I might kill myself broadcasting today. You hear my raspy voice? But here is the warning. Here is the warning. Let me take my glasses off. Hide! Get under your desk! We're under attack! Hide! Get under your desk! We're under attack! America is under attack! Get under your desk! I'm sorry, I've been waiting to do that all day. I know, some people are going to be very mad at me. Some people are going to be very mad. But I got to call it. I got to call it like I see it. And the hysteria going on today in our national media, in the halls of Washington, is, I mean, I cover corruption and hypocrisy for a living. And I was just telling Jen, my business partner, last night, I want to work on a book and just title it, "You're All Full of Shit." Dash, like all of you. Because everybody's full of shit. Everybody's full of shit. The politicians, the journalists, all of them. Everyone's full of shit. But today has shown that beyond a reasonable doubt. And to put a disclaimer, and by the way, guys, if you don't know, I'm now super. This is a super chat. So if you like what I'm saying, if you want to support the eventual launch of Status Coup, which Jen could tell you in the chat room, the live super chat, we are very close to launching, or soft launching, they say in the biz. If you want to help us, leave $1 or $2, 5, 10, 15, whatever you want, right there in the super chat. But we'll give you a shout out too. But let me tell you something. As the disclaimer that I'm not a Trump supporter, as a disclaimer that I thought he looked like a Putin puppet. He did look like a Putin puppet, and I think it's because Putin has something on Trump. I do. I think Putin has something on Trump, probably a lot of evidence of money laundering and financial crimes with Russian oligarchs, and that's probably why Trump even did this today. And that's probably why Trump bashes every other foreign leader but bows down to Vladimir Putin. I do believe that. But the hysteria, especially by the American media and DC elite, is mind-numbing and mind-boggling to me. It's crazy. And I'll tell you why, okay? So, well, you know, I had some downtime in December and January. Obviously I was let go from my job and all that business. So I did something that I've told you all to do. And I watched a documentary series called Untold History of the United States of America. It's probably like 10 episodes. It's by Oliver Stone, who I think is a brilliant documentarian filmmaker. And it basically teaches you everything that you weren't taught in grade school or by the corporate media about all the fuckery. Oh, demonetized. Oh well. All the fuckery that has happened at the hands of the United States of America. I'm not talking about interfering, just merely interfering in other countries' elections. I'm talking about, like, toppling other countries' democratically elected leaders and installing our own leaders that are friendly to the United States business interests, but not so friendly to, let's say, democracy, human rights, installing terrorists. The United States has been doing this all throughout the world, dating back to the turn of the 20th century. We're talking over a century now. Before the buildup of the military-industrial complex, during this military-industrial complex. So when people attack me on Twitter for my, it's a new phrase, I've never heard it until recently, Jordan, you're just a giant whataboutism. You're all whataboutism, Jordan. This isn't about what the United States has done. This is about Russia attacking our holy, our righteous democracy. Sorry, number one, we don't have a democracy. And I can tell you that because I'm out in the country. I've traveled to 35 states in the last 3 years, been to way more cities than I could even count, and I've seen how democratic our society is. We don't have democratic elections in the United States of America. We have voter suppression. We've had election fraud in New York, in California, in Pennsylvania, in Iowa, in many other places. We have aristocrats and wealthy donors and corporations that buy off the politicians, and then the political parties that are bought off then decide which candidates they are going to elect. Not the voters, but the parties decide which candidates they're going to elect. Do you need to look any further than the Democratic National Committee lawyer during the DNC fraud lawsuit, literally saying, technically, we could decide the candidate in a back room over cigars? This is not to excuse or condone Russia interfering in the United States election. By the way, I am going to address Mueller's indictment, which I finally got a chance to read. I've been sick. A lot of this stuff is happening, and I've been, and my throat hurts, and I'm sneezing 20 times a day. Like, as soon as I go outside, I'm sneezing. And do you see the bags under my eyes? I'm not sleeping. I have the worst allergies, and who else knows what's wrong with me? Maybe all this reporting on environmental genocide and corruption is getting to me. But I'm not condoning what Russia did or did not do, and I'm going to get to what I think they did, because I read Mueller's indictment. What I'm saying is the reaction is so out of proportion to reality. I mean, look at some of this. Look at some of this. It's crazy. John McCain. I'm not going to attack him too much because he's apparently dying, but our friend John McCain. Today's press conference in Helsinki was one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. This damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate. But it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake. President Trump proved not only unable, but unwilling to stand up to Putin, like we stood up to Saddam in Iraq, thanks to people like John McCain, and murdered 4,000 U.S. citizens for no reason, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi citizens dead or wounded. That's how we should stand up, right, Mr. McCain? He and Putin seem to be speaking from the same script as the president made a conscious choice to defend a tyrant against the fair questions of a free press, and to grant Putin an uncontested platform to spew propaganda and lies to the world. Propaganda and lies to the world. That's from Senator John McCain. I'm not attacking him. He's on his deathbed. Sorry to hear that. Sorry for his family. But I'm going to point out the total hypocrisy and contradiction in a warmonger, I mean, head of the class warmonger like John McCain, taking on the propaganda push there. Do I think Putin is lying that Russia interfered in our election? I absolutely 100% do think Russia interfered in the United States election. Do I think that Mueller or the media has provided 100% proof that the DNC and Podesta was hacked by the Russian government? No, I don't. I'm going to get to that in a minute because I think that's more connected to the Mueller indictment, which came out Friday. I don't think they provided actual proof, but do I think it's likely that Russia might have hacked the DNC or Podesta? Yeah, I do think it's likely. My opinion has morphed to that side. Do I think it's the greatest attack on American democracy? Do I think it's equivalent of Pearl Harbor, like some have said? Do I think it's equivalent to 9/11? No, not even close. Not even in the same breath. You're literally talking about Hillary Clinton's campaigns, emails either being hacked or leaked. Since when is Hillary Clinton's campaign or her emails America? How is that America being under attack? Literally, the United States has tried to hack other people's elections. Let me show you, by the way, this never got any media attention, but just so you understand the hypocrisy and maybe just the sociopath nature of this. This is what Hillary Clinton said about the Palestinian election. Never got any media attention. She was on audio tape saying this about the Palestinian election. Somehow, now the audio tape has been deleted from the internet. That's interesting, Google. But while George W. Bush's Republican administration was no fan of Hamas, they still backed the Palestinian elections and accepted the outcome. Clinton, however, seemed to rue the result. Quote, "I do not think we should have pushed for an election in the Palestinian territories. I think that was a big mistake," said Clinton, adding that if we were going to push for an election, then we should have made sure that we did something to determine who was going to win. Oh, Jesus. You can't make it up. You just can't make it up. So the DNC's lawyer during the DNC fraud lawsuit, he says, well, you know, if we want to, we could just go in a back room and decide the outcome of the election. Democratic Party politicians have openly on the record said the party should decide the nominee, not the voters. This has been said on the record by some Democratic politicians. We have tried to interfere, we have interfered in other countries' elections. Let me show you something else here. A history for you. So, this is from The Guardian. I want to get to the important part. While Americans feel justifiably angry at alleged interference with their political process, they have also been handed a mirror, and the reflection should disturb them. For the U.S. is a world leader in the field of intervening in the internal affairs of other countries. The alleged interference is far more extensive than hacking into emails belonging to unfavored political parties. According to research by political scientist Dov Levin, the U.S. and the USSR Russia together intervened no less than 117 times in foreign elections between 1946 and 2000, or, quote, 1 out of every 9 competitive national level executive elections. And before I continue getting into that, I want to make something very clear, okay? Because two things can be true at once. Because those of you who are, calling me a Putin puppet, and Jordan, this whataboutism, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is two things are true. Number one, not a good thing, bad thing, threatening thing. If Russia is able to hack into political campaigns, even ones that I don't like Hillary Clinton, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. Honestly, I would say it if they did it into the Trump campaign. I would definitely say it if they did it into the Bernie campaign. It is not a good thing that Russia, if they did hack into, which I'm going to get into that in a minute, if they did hack in, it's a bad thing. Governments should not be interfering in other governments' elections, even if they're releasing true information. I don't think it's a good thing that Russia was sending out troll farms on the internet to, try to brainwash, and try and basically involve themselves in our election. No, it's not a good thing. Do I think it's World War III? Do I think it's Pearl Harbor? Do I think it's 9/11? No, I don't, because I know history and I know world history. And I think a lot of people, especially the Hillbots, especially the establishment, they're so deranged about Trump, for good reason, for great reason. Trump's a maniac. Trump, I think, is unstable. And I think Trump is doing a lot worse to the United States in terms of his policies than he did in terms of his mouth today. And I'm going to get to later. There's something that was said during the Trump-Putin love fest that was much, much more damaging to the United States and the planet. The planet. If you actually care about the planet, there was something said that's much worse, much more telling, that no one's talking about. I'm going to talk about it. What I'm saying is two things are true. Number one, Russia interfering in the United States election, it's a bad thing. I think the United States, frankly, it happened under Obama, but the U.S., meaning both political parties, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, needs to get its shit together in terms of cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity is the new, cyber warfare is the next frontier of warfare. Of course it is. So I don't think it's a good thing. What I'm saying is this reaction is not proportionate to reality. That's what I'm saying. I keep it real. This reaction is so disproportionate with reality because it's not whataboutism. This is the truth. This is reality. The United States, because we are here, let me tell you, we are an imperial nation. We are an imperial nation. The United States, when they get a taste of its own medicine, oh my God, hide under your desk. We're under attack. This is the end of democracy. Trump is treasonous. This is treason. When we do this all over the world, and we have literally, I'm not talking about hacking other people's electoral systems. I'm talking about literally stoking up and creating fake protests in countries to topple democratically elected dictators. If you don't like me speaking the truth, turn off the channel. You don't have to watch me. I don't care. But I'm going to speak the truth. Because America, first of all, is not a democracy. All you got to do is look at our elections. All you got to do is look at unelected emergency managers put in place. Unelected emergency managers put in place in places like Flint and Detroit. All you have to do is look at ballot measures that are voted on by the people. Ballot measures that are voted on by the people during elections that are then repealed by state legislatures. We don't have a functioning democracy. We haven't had a functioning democracy since I've been alive, and well before then. We have a system that is bought and paid for by the corporations and the donors, and the lobbyists, and frankly the media is bought off by multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates that own these media outlets. So when you tweet at me or you comment here, oh, this is whataboutism. No, this is what about reality. This is reality. These are the facts. This is the truth. So let me read you more of the truth. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Here we go. Oh, did I lose it? Here we go. Indeed, one cannot understand U.S.-Russian relations today without acknowledging America's role in the international affairs of its defeated Cold War foe. As Stephen Cohen puts it, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the approach of U.S. advisors was nothing less than missionary, a virtual crusade to transform post-communist Russia into some fascismal of the American democratic and capitalist system. As soon as Bill Clinton assumed the White House in '93, his experts discussed formulating a policy of American tutelage, including unabashed partisan support for President Boris Yeltsin, who was not popular at that time in the Soviet Union. The Russian Federation. Political missionaries and evangelists, usually called advisors, spread across Russia in the early and mid-1990s, notes Cohen. Many were funded by the U.S. government. Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former national security advisor, and Mika Brzezinski from MSNBC's father, talked of Russia increasingly passing into de facto Western receivership. The results were, to put it mildly, disastrous. Between 1990 and 94, life expectancy for Russian men and women fell from 64 and 74 years, respectively, to 58 and 71 years. The surge in mortality was beyond the peacetime experience of industrialized countries. While it was boom time for the new oligarchs, poverty and unemployment surged, prices were hiked dramatically, communities were devastated by deindustrialization, and social protections were stripped away. To the horror of the West, Yeltsin's popularity nosedived to the point where a communist triumph in the 96 presidential elections could not be ruled out. Yeltsin turned to the oligarchs, using their vast resources to run an unscrupulous campaign. As Leonid Bershitsky puts it, it was a momentous event that undermined a fragile democracy and led to the emergence of Vladimir Putin's dictatorial regime. It is even alleged that in 2011, Putin's key ally, then-President Dmitry Medvedev, privately suggested the election was rigged. And let me tell you some more about that rigged election in the 90s. Here's Oliver Stone. Russia's GDP under Boris Yeltsin had dropped 40% in value, maybe more. Poverty was endemic. The oligarchs were corrupt and getting rich like mad. Those oligarchs in the 90s became a problem. Boris Yeltsin was very unpopular, but the 96 election of Yeltsin was a complete fraud. The U.S. supported the election to make things work and gave him an International Monetary Fund loan before the election. They gave him all they could to make him win. We sent over teams of advisors. They were a disaster. The country privatized as much as they could at the advice of the U.S. and their advisors from the U.S. as fast as they could. It was like Ronald Reagan comes to Russia. It didn't work. People suffered greatly. I didn't hear anything. And by the way, Rand Paul, who I don't agree with in just about anything, but Rand Paul had the temerity to say this on cable news the other day, basically saying, well, you know, Russia interfered in our elections, but we've interfered in other people's elections. And he was attacked like nobody other for supporting Putin and being a puppet. Like, I wasn't alive, but this is getting very close to the levels of, you know, Committee on Un-American Activities level. You got some journalists tweeting out, traitor, against people that either just question the intelligence provided or the accusations provided by Robert Mueller, or call you treasonous or a traitor if you're not as foaming at the mouth as them. Again, I don't think it's a good thing, Russia interfering in U.S. matters or the election. Do I think it's the equivalent of Pearl Harbor or 9/11 and we're under attack and blah, blah, blah? No, I don't. Sorry, I don't. You know what I do think attacks American democracy? You know what I really think is an attack on true democracy? Registration deadlines for voting. I think there should actually be same-day registration. I think you should be able to just come and vote if you could show that you're an American citizen. That's an attack on real democracy. You know what else is an attack on democracy? Closing 2/3 of the polling places in different states before an election. That's an attack on democracy. Do you know what's also an attack on democracy? When corporately seized media outlets call the election before all the votes have been counted. That's an attack. That's what happened in the Iowa caucus. All the cable outlets called the election. Bernie Sanders was only losing. He was losing by 1/10 of 1%. I mean, There are real attacks on democracy. You know what else is an attack on democracy? When the governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, appoints an unelected emergency manager to basically decide to switch a city like Flint to a toxic river like the Flint River. The city council of Flint didn't vote for that. The mayor didn't choose that. An unelected emergency manager. That's an attack on democracy. You know what else is an attack on democracy? When the citizens of South Dakota, if you're watching, the citizens of South Dakota voted on a ballot measure in 2016. They voted for an anti-corruption ballot measure that limited the amount of influence lobbyists could have. Their state legislature, gasped, couldn't accept donations from lobbyists. They voted for that. And the state legislature repealed it. You know what else is an attack on democracy? When Birmingham, Alabama, which is 74% African American, votes to raise the minimum wage from starvation level $7.25 to less starvation level of $10.10, and the all-white legislature blocks it. As Shiva says, capitalism is an attack on democracy. I agree. Michael Cooper, by the way, just signed up to Patreon. Not sure what took me long. Michael, God bless you, and I'm not sure what took you so long either. But hey, better to be late, better to be sorry than late, or whatever they say. Patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. If you want to support my journalism and eventually Status Quo, we are very, very actively working on a mega. When I say mega, Jen, tell them how mega it is. Not MAGA, mega story on Flint that I have a national outlet that I'm doing it for, and it is going to blow your fucking mind. And that is truth in advertising. It is so big that, let's just say it's so big that the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has suddenly decided to delete its entire YouTube channel. Why would an environmental agency delete its YouTube channel right before a journalist is going to report on them? Very interesting. Thank you, Mohammed Levy. Mohammed Levy, $10. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. To sell, $5. That's the right way to display a sign, Jordan. What's up? You don't like when the sign was up falling behind me? Yes, we made a little. We have gone digital. Still the same rough and tumble arts and crafts style, just digitally, for your pleasure. Thank you for the contribution to sell. But let me tell you something. I want to be abundantly clear so nobody confuses what I'm saying. I want to be abundantly clear. I'm an American citizen. I think it's a bad thing when America, even if it's Hillary Clinton's campaign, is interfered with by Russia or anyone else. I think it's a bad thing. But I have seen real attacks on American democracy. I have also seen the real victims of those attacks. And trust me, it ain't Hillary Clinton and her campaign. It's not the Democratic Party and Donna Brazil. Where's Ty? Ty has been actively working on finishing a mini documentary on the very reporting that Jen and I did in Flint. So when the story I'm about to breaks, we're also going to try to break the mini documentary as soon as the story comes out, and we're going to put it up. Going to try to have the Status Quo website ready, not fully ready, but somewhat ready, so you could watch the documentary on our website. So let me tell you something. I think it's a bad thing. Do I think it merits these kind of reactions? Like from John Brennan, Donald Trump's press conference performance in Zelensky rises to and exceeds the thresholds of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous, I tell you. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? Well, if anybody knows recent American history, John Brennan, not exactly a patriot. Kind of a warmonger. Kind of a liar. About drones. And about all things CIA. So I don't really want to hear from John Brennan about treason or any of that stuff, because as DeSalle says, John Brennan is a definition of a tool. Let's go to my friend Anderson Cooper, who, by the way, if you don't know, just saying, was an intern. He was an intern at the CIA. Let's see what Anderson has. Oh, here we go.
You have been watching perhaps one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president at a summit in front of a Russian leader, certainly that I've ever seen. An extraordinary press conference. I'm back with CNN Global Affairs analyst Susan Glasser, CNN senior political analyst David Gergen, CNN chief international anchor Christian Amanpour. Christian, the president, given the opportunity, asked by a reporter who he trusted on the issue of Russian meddling, the U.S. intelligence community or Vladimir Putin, he blinked and he went to Hillary Clinton's email server, asked who was responsible. He says, I hold both countries responsible. I think we are all to blame. We have a...
So, Anderson Cooper, this is the most disgraceful press conference of an American president ever? 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 I mean, I think it's very clear, folks, very clear. You would have to be totally blind if you didn't see that that Vladimir Putin has something over President Trump. There's no doubt in my mind. I've been saying that for quite some time. I have been saying that I think, even when I was at the Young Turks, I said this, I think there is a very likely chance that Mueller is going to prove that Trump and the Trump organization, pre-president, before he was president, has done billions, with a B, dollars worth of money laundering through Russia. I think Putin has damning evidence of that, and that is why Trump has talked very lovingly and kind of, as opposed to being this larger-than-life idiot around every other world leader, shrinks next to Putin. I think that's very likely. But do you know what else I think? I think President Trump has armed Nazis in Ukraine. The media doesn't want to talk about that. I don't agree with it, by the way. I think it's a bad thing that Trump did. President Trump has armed the Ukrainian rebels against Russia. Obama didn't do that. President Trump has bombed Syria now twice. Now twice. Thank you, Lawanda, for your contribution of $5. Mwah. We've bombed Syria twice. You think Russia likes that? President Trump is essentially battling Russia so that America can export more oil and Russia doesn't get to export oil. These are these are facts that the media doesn't want to put out there. I don't like anything Trump has done. I don't like arming the Ukrainian Nazis. They're fascists, the Ukrainians, opposition. I don't like bombing Syria. It just came out, by the way. Our latest rounds of bombing. The inspectors went in, they found chlorine, not sarin gas. But, this is the same media huffing and puffing today about enemy treasonous Trump and passing off this Russian hacking with no actual evidence to support it. I'm going to get to that in 1 minute. Same media that passed off with no scrutiny, no facts, that Assad just gassed his people another time. It just came out, no sarin gas was found. Did they correct it? No. So, spare me. So you got John Brennan, apoplectic. You got John McCain, apoplectic. Chuck Todd, oh my God. Chuck Todd, the sergeant of D.C. Will serious congressional Republicans still truly sit back and say nothing following this POTUS performance on the world stage, uttering what he said while standing and uplifting one of the greatest adversaries of freedom and democracy? Well, Chuck, if people want to say this is whataboutism, so be it. I never, ever heard people like Chuck Todd, and all these people in the media getting hyperbolic today, I never heard them say a damn word when George W. Bush was lying us into a ground war in Iraq. Is that not a threat on democracy? You want to talk about Russian interference in the U.S. election? Well, how about we talk about Russian interference in Iran in the 1950s, which led to the Ayatollah? How about we talk about the United States now arming Saudi Arabia to produce one of the greatest genocides, not greatest, one of the largest genocides in history, other than the Holocaust, I would say, in Yemen. That's the United States arming Saudi Arabia. How about we talk about the United States trying to do coup d'etats in Cuba and Venezuela and Peru? You like my accent? If you want to say that I am perpetrating whataboutism, then I am going to say you are perpetrating and executing blinders. If I'm whataboutism, you have blinders on. So I do think, I think it's very likely Putin has something over Trump. Do I think it's likely that Trump is making decisions that are bad for America because Putin has something on him? Yeah, I think that is likely. Do I think this whole thing where Russia hacked the election and this is the greatest threat to democracy since, Pearl Harbor and 9/11, do I think that? No, I think that's an insult to people who died at Pearl Harbor and 9/11. No, I think what's actually a threat to American democracy and our existence are politicians selling out the voters they're supposed to represent in order to do the bidding of multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates. I think what's really, really a threat to our democracy and our very existence is politicians selling out American citizens to Nestle, selling out our water and our land to mother frackers so they can frack. That's what is putting us at risk. That's a threat to democracy. You know what I think is a threat to democracy? When you don't have same-day registration, when you have voter suppression gone run amok, and nobody cares. I mean, Greg Palast, who's a great investigative journalist, who's been, shunned and put into a corner, just like Seymour Hersh has, just like many journalists have, who speak out against the herd mentality. And I would consider myself not as good as them, but I won't join the herd mentality. Sorry. You don't have to like it, but I'm not going to just join the herd mentality. And you want to know what? If I joined the herd mentality, I'd have a lot more money to my name. If I was just like Chuck Todd and all these idiots who are giant hypocrites, who don't report the truth, who contradict themselves and twist themselves into pretzels to just regurgitate whatever the U.S. government tells them, I'd be pretty loaded right now. But I actually choose to have some integrity. Sorry. Let me read some more doozies. David Korn, lowest moment ever. Trump defends Putin and gives more credence to his denial than what U.S. intelligence and law enforcement say. He is a complete puppet. The #1 useful idiot of all time. Lenin would be proud. Tell him what you really think, David. The ghost of Benedict Arnold is smiling. The ghost of Benedict Arnold is smiling, they say. I mean, if I just surfed Twitter, I'd get even more bombastic responses. So, that's what I think. I think that Trump is bowing down to Putin because I think Putin has some really incriminating, damaging information on him. Now, on to the Mueller indictment. I didn't do anything on it Friday because I was sick, and I'm sick right now. My throat is killing me. Not good, but I wanted to go live and talk to you guys. So, and thank you very much for those who are leaving contributions in the Super Chat, for those who are Patreon subscribers. I can't wait to report this major story that we're going to report. If you came to this late, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has suddenly decided to delete its entire YouTube channel after I made public that I might have some damaging information about them. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So, Mueller comes out with this indictment. I just finished reading it today because I've actually been working on like real journalism, not this hysteria. So I've been working, Jen has read it, so I've been working on a very in-depth piece that came from knocking on 400 doors. Jen and I knocked on 400 doors in Flint, Michigan in 2 weeks. And we learned some very, very disturbing information, and we're going to need your help to get it out. That's why we're asking for your support, because right when this story gets out, we're getting back out there. We'll be going back to Flint. Ty and I are going to be going on a tour of where all these mass shootings have happened to try and put what is not normal, the massacre of American citizens, back into the news. So we need your support financially, social media-wise, all of that. So thank you to everyone who's contributed, and tell your friends, tell your mother, tell the mailman, everyone. I don't care if your dog or cat presses the subscribe button, we'll take it. So I read Mueller's indictment, and I said to Jen this morning, the Mueller indictment read to me very much like a very, very good nonfiction book, missing all of its footnotes and notations. You know when you read a book, like a nonfiction book, and they make claims or cite facts or whatever, and at the bottom of the page, they'll have a footnote. And then in the back of the book, they'll have more information that support those claims. Don't just say 400 doors, that's why we love you, Jordan. Jen did it too. She was with me. Gotta praise her. Gotta praise her too. She was with me. We knocked on a lot of doors. Because, you know, we want to practice this radical thing called journalism. Not just stenography. Not just telling you what the state of Michigan says about Flint's water. Not just telling you what the state environmental agency says. So that story's going to be out. I'm working on it for a national news outlet. Of most of the national news outlets, I could stomach this one. So, I read the indictment. I'm going to tell you what I think. Some of you might like it, some of you might not like it, but I'm just going to be honest what I think. First of all, I'm not a technical cybersecurity expert. I put that out as a full disclaimer. Over the last 2 years, I've read some pieces about malware and, you know, technical stuff about hacking. I'm not going to pretend to you that I quite understand it, because I don't. It's not my expertise. And I choose not to focus on the Russia hack story that much because I want to cover real things that affect real people. Sorry, the people in Flint and East Chicago and Alabama and St. Louis and the people we'll meet on this gun tour, first thing they wake up in the morning thinking about isn't Russia. Sorry, or Hillary Clinton. So I read it. It read to me like a very, very plausible, possible, and honestly likely course of events. It seemed very specific to me. It seemed, I mean, if you're calling out all these Russian agents, all 12 of them, you would think you have actual proof. It talked about specific locations where things came from, all these things. So in my head, I'm thinking, all right, well, this went to a grand jury and they chose to indict. So I'm assuming that Mueller, who didn't provide any evidence, not 1 ounce of evidence, to support the claims that were made in the indictment. It's just stated as fact, but there's no like evidence, like forensic evidence or anything to actually prove it. I'm assuming he provided those things to the grand jury. That's all I could do. Assume it. I don't have the evidence in front of me. You don't have the evidence in front of you. The grand jury, we presume, have the evidence in front of them because there's a lot I mean, it's 29 pages, and it's very heavy on specific claims and accusations that are made. So all I could do is say, I mean, it's possible. Mueller has lied about other things. If you know, he's lied in front of Congress before about weapons of mass destruction. But at least for this indictment, it's possible to me. It comes off as possible and likely that everything in there happened, including the GRU, which is kind of in part the cybersecurity wing of Russia's government, hacked the DNC, hacked Podesta's emails. But the bottom line is, I don't know. There's no proof provided. Trenton, I miss the days when all we discussed was silly Obama issues and how disheveled the beard of Jordan looked, even though we included me calling him daddy. I don't even want to know what that means, but okay. I don't know. I said on Twitter, all I know is there's a lot of claims made in the indictments. There's a lot of accusations, but unlike the corporate media stenographers, they're not journalists, they're stenographers. I'm not going to just regurgitate it because as a journalist, if you're an actual journalist, and Jen could tell you, I'm kind of, I'm very scrupulous and I'm very, very emphatic about confirming things. Very, very, I've told her and made her double and triple check things because when you're making accusations, especially ones that have potential criminal consequences for organizations, people, countries, you want to check it, double check it, triple check it, and you want to make sure you have the evidence. Even if it's video evidence, audio evidence, documentation to support it, various eyewitnesses, and that, unfortunately, most journalists don't do because that would require work. That would require effort. So most corporate journalists are just they're just echo chamber people. Aaron Maté, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Aaron Maté with The Real News. I like his work. I watched him interview Michael Isikoff of Yahoo News. And Isikoff's a good reporter. He's broken a lot of things. I don't know him. I think he's a good reporter. But Aaron Maté interviewed Michael Isikoff on Real News. You could go check it out on Real News. And literally, Maté kept saying what I'm saying and kept asking Isikoff, but like, how do you know the indictment doesn't provide any proof? Like, how do you know these claims? He's asking Isikoff, how do you know that everything he's saying is true? Or maybe some of it's true, but some of it is wrong. Or some of it's true, but some of it's missing context. How do you know? And Isikoff basically said, well, prosecutors don't generally reveal their evidence in indictments. And, well, a lot of things are classified. Well, no, I don't know. No, I don't know. You're asking, okay, so people on Twitter who are accusing me of whataboutism and all this stuff, you're asking people, journalists, real journalists, who have lived through the lies that led to Iraq war, that have lived through the lies that led to Libya, that have lived through, honestly, lies that are keeping us in Afghanistan, that have lived through lies from the government about how many people we killed from drones. I mean, the list goes on about lies from the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, Homeland Security. The government lies as much as they breathe. It doesn't mean everything the government says is a lie, but it does mean don't automatically believe what they say. And by the way, Robert Mueller is not like some separate thing from the government. He was the FBI director, and if you want to look at American history, he lied in front of Congress. Google Robert Mueller, lies to Congress, WMDs. So Aaron from The Real News, who I just found out lives in New York, so I messaged him to get together. Aaron asked Michael Isikoff, well, the indictment, basically everything I'm saying, the indictment is very thorough. The indictment is very thorough. and makes all these accusations, but it doesn't provide any proof. And Isikoff says, well, you know, essentially trying to make it seem like Aaron and people like Aaron, I guess me too, are just like a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Like, well, if you want to believe in like an alternative theory, present it. But I think, Michael Isikoff was saying, I think that when you look through the indictment, it's very overwhelming and specific, and he goes into great detail. No, I'm saying it's a conspiracy theory if there's no evidence to provide it. I'm saying that Aaron Mate and myself and Glenn Greenwald and Michael Tracy, I mean, I don't agree 100% with everything Glenn says or Michael says, but what I do think is journalists should be saying, I mean, the claims are credible. It's plausible. I don't put anything past Russia. Don't get me wrong. Russia's not a friend of the United States. Vladimir Putin's not a friend to humanity. He has commissioned the murder of journalists. He has commissioned homosexuals to be beaten up and treated without dignity. He's an autocrat. There's no mistaking. Vladimir Putin isn't a friend. I'm not defending Vladimir Putin. Trust me. But I read the indictment, and it honestly reads like a book, a nonfiction book, with no cliff notes. I mean, am I supposed to just read it without any evidence, without any supporting proof, without any forensic science, without any of it? Just claims as fact and say, well, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And by the way, Sam Oser just joined the chat. Start watching Sam. She's been going live on my channel while I've been sick and frail. She's doing a bang-up job. She's what I would call, she's a socialist, borderline communist down in Houston. No, I'm just kidding. Half kidding. Love you, Sam. She's going to be reporting for the channel. She is really taking on the establishment down there in Houston. She's fantastic. So don't only look for me. And by the way, just so you know, this channel very soon is not going to be my channel anymore. We're going to be changing it over to Status Coup, which we're going to be launching. Again, if you don't know, get with the program. We're launching Status Coup at some point this summer. With or without you, baby. I'd rather it with you. So Sam's going to be doing some video work and reporting down from Houston. We got some other people in mind. Some of you have asked, am I going to have anyone from the Young Turks or anyone I used to work with from the Young Turks? We do have Ty. Ty is with me now, full-time cameraman, editor. Don't know about anyone else, probably not, but I got some people in mind, so don't worry. So the channel will be becoming Status Coup with my ugly face leading it, and a lot other pretty faces around me. But bottom line, my thoughts on the Mueller indictment goes as this. Don't tell me what happened. Show me what happened. I have absolutely no dog in this fight. I don't care. There's no benefit to me to say Russia didn't hack Hillary Clinton's campaign. If Russia hacked Hillary's campaign, so be it. I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like what she stands for. Generally speaking, do I support foreign governments hacking political campaigns' emails? No. Even if it's Hillary Clinton, I don't think that's a good thing. But do I think it's Pearl Harbor? Do I think Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I mean, folks, it's literally John Podesta opening a phishing email. It's John Podesta opening a phishing email. Come on. It's not an attack on America. John Podesta is not America. Hillary Clinton is not America. Sorry. So, as I said on Twitter, some people might not like me. Some people might think that I'm, a Putin puppet, whatever. The problem is, so the chances of these 12 Russians who were indicted of ever stepping foot into an American courtroom are as likely as me ending up with a supermodel wife. It's not going to happen. So are we ever going to see the evidence, or are we just going to have to take it as fact? as fact that the DNC and Podesta was hacked by Russians. I trust Seymour Hersh, who I think is one of the greatest investigative reporters of our time. He's been shunned by the media because he didn't conform to be another corporate media asshole. I did a video last week. He says, not a hack. And he has sources and evidence that he's seen where it was leaked, not hacked. In fairness, I haven't seen evidence from Seymour Hersh either. So I haven't seen evidence from anyone. So as a journalist, yes, sometimes you do go on circumstantial evidence, but you're talking about going on circumstantial evidence to accuse the second biggest nuclear power in the world of espionage. I mean, that's not a small thing, folks. So, sorry. I'm sorry that nuance isn't sexy. Nuance isn't sexy in media. You're supposed to have a strong hot take and breathe fire. And breathe fire. Well, you know, I read the indictment. It seems plausible to me. It's even probably likely. But I can't read that indictment and say, there's the proof. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And by the way, tiny little fact that no one answers this question. Mueller doesn't answer this question. If the DNC was hacked by Russia, why didn't it provide its servers to the FBI? Does that make me a conspiracy theorist for asking this? If the DNC was hacked by the Russian government, fell. If the DNC was hacked by the Russian government, why didn't they provide their servers to the FBI? This is kind of a common sense thing. Why would you provide your servers to a third party investigator, one that essentially can just tell you what you want to hear, instead of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, which, by the way, at the time, Democrat Barack Obama was president. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, unless you don't want the FBI to see your servers because you got some other shit in there. That's possible. So, folks, now that we've addressed the indictment, now that we've addressed the treasonous summit, and by the way, I just want to be clear because I know a lot of people still don't understand this nuance thing. I think Trump is awful. I would love to see a progressive take out Trump. I think we all should be very careful about calling for impeachment because you got a less fire-breathing fanatic, fascist in Mike Pence waiting in the wings to take over for Trump. He doesn't sound as bad, but he would be worse. On policy, you better believe it. Go ask the people of Indiana if they would prefer Mike Pence to Donald Trump. A man who is a religious fanatic, doesn't believe in female reproductive rights, is, frankly, in my view, through policies, racist. You want to impeach Trump, know what you're getting in replace. And where's my super chat love? Nobody, I watched Jimmy Dore. God bless him, I love him. We were just text messaging yesterday. Jimmy Dore gets all the super chat cash. I gotta work on it. I'll be more like Jimmy. I'll just start screaming. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. It doesn't matter. If you can't leave money, it's fine. But I want to get on to what I think was truly the biggest story of this summit. And I guarantee you, no one has said a word about it. No one has said a word. Be more funny? All right, I'll try. So let's play this clip. Let's play this clip from Trump.
Because there will be a gap formed in the supply and demand mechanism. And first, it's the consuming countries who will fall into this gap. And the second question, before the meeting with President Putin, you called him an adversary, a rival, and yet you expressed hope that you will be able to bring this relationship to a new level. Did you manage to do this?
No, actually, I called him a competitor, and a good competitor he is. And I think the word competitor is a compliment. I think that we will be competing when you talk about the pipeline. I'm not sure necessarily that it's in the best interests of Germany or not, but that was a decision that they made. We'll be competing. As you know, the United States is now, or soon will be, but I think it actually is right now the largest in the oil and gas world. So we're going to be selling LNG, and we'll have to be competing with the pipeline. And I think we'll compete successfully, although there is a little advantage locationally. So I just wish them luck. I mean, I did. I discussed with Angela Merkel in pretty strong tones, but I also know where they're all coming from. And they have a very close source. So we'll see how that all works out. But we have lots of sources now, and the United States is much different than it was a number of years ago when we weren't able to extract what we can extract today. So today we're #1 in the world at that, and I think we'll be out there competing very strongly. Thank you very much.
So, not as sexy and treasonous as Russian hacking, but actually relevant to your world. Thank you, Sir Bikes-a-Lot, for the $2. We don't have to beg for common sense questions. That's right. But President Trump literally just admitted that we are not extracting oil and natural gas in the United States. We are not fracking all over the United States, which, by the way, started happening under, frankly, George Bush, then went on steroids under Obama, and has gone on, I don't know what's above steroids, but above steroids under Trump. We're not fracking for energy independence. We're not doing any of this for energy independence. The president just admitted we are literally destroying our country, destroying our planet, destroying our air, destroying our water, destroying Native Americans' health, because it's Native Americans who are the sickest from the fracking and the uranium mining and all of this stuff. Literally, we are fracking and extracting so that we could sell it to other countries. Why? So that the Rex Tillersons of the world, when he ran ExxonMobil, and the Kelsey Warrens of the world, who run Energy Transfer Partners, who is a mega fossil fuel company. Dakota Access Pipeline was theirs. Trans-Pecos Pipeline was theirs. Rover Pipeline is theirs, and a whole lot of other pipelines. Where you're literally doing this, not for energy independence, which would mean cheaper energy made in America. We're doing it so that fossil fuel companies that buy off the politicians can make billions and billions and billions of dollars more by selling the oil and natural gas to Poland, to China, to Mexico, to Germany. As Trump just put it, we're competing. We're competing for those sales. It's also the European Union. The European unions own natural gas production, has been shrinking and will continue shrinking. That is why Germany wants that pipeline from Russia to go under the Baltic Sea into Germany, because their own energy manufacturing, basically, they're almost tapped out of natural gas. So you have Native Americans, non-Native Americans, progressives, environmentalists, all these people protesting, chaining themselves to construction machines, quitting their jobs to go to Standing Rock, sacrificing their jobs and their families and their livelihoods to go fight based on a lie. Because there is no benefit to the United States of America for this natural gas. Jen and I were in Virginia recently covering the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a natural gas pipeline for which there is no actual need. The existing pipelines in Virginia and West Virginia are at half capacity. If you need more natural gas, put them in there. Put them in those pipelines. But these pipelines are being created so that more natural gas could be exported. But I don't hear anyone in the media talking about this. Why is this not as scandalous as Trump not going after Putin? One actually impacts whether you live or die. The other one creates some controversy on cable news tonight. You have President Trump, and by the way, if Hillary Clinton became president, she was going to frack all over the place too. When she was Secretary of State, she helped push fracking all over the world. But you literally have a president. There is no shame in what he's saying. He says it brazenly, without pause. Yeah, we're in competition to export natural gas. So when you hear these oil companies, when you hear their employees in corporate media regurgitating, I've seen Jake Tapper repeat this oil line during interviews. Well, the argument is it's energy independence. No, it doesn't lead to independence. Are your oil prices so much cheaper? Is your gas prices that much cheaper? You still pay a pretty penny to fill up your tank, no? No, we're still depending on oil from Saudi Arabia. That's where we're getting it from. So why is it that we're fracking like crazy, but we're not using it here? That's not energy independence. It's a lie. And that lie, literally, you have human beings being used as guinea pigs. You got human beings being used as guinea pigs. You have indigenous people having their reservations have massive natural gas pipelines gone underneath their reservations, endangering their sacred water, their religious rights, their air, their wildlife. For what? Where's Jerry Ross, my favorite troll, when you need him? So that we could sell it to Poland, to European Union nations, to China. It's unbelievable. Are those sales, when we sell it to these other countries, are those coming back in like tax rebates to the American citizens? Is that what they mean by energy independence? Are you getting something in your tax return, a little extra? Because we're selling all this oil and we're exporting all this oil to all these countries? Are you getting money back in the profits? I don't think so. I don't think so. All these countries are getting the oil, and the money is going to ExxonMobil, Sunoco Logistics, Energy Transfer Partners, Phillips 66. I mean, the list, BP. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. Shiva, capitalism is ruining us. So, as I close, I thank you for watching. I'm not going to be live every day this week because I am still under the weather, but I want to preview for you some things that are coming up. Number one, I've been in journalism for 10 years, give or take. A little bit more than that. The story that I'm working on now, I do not exaggerate at all, is the biggest thing I've ever worked on. I feel like there are some journalists, I won't name names, but on Twitter, every story is the biggest thing known to man. This this is the biggest thing I've ever worked on. It's the biggest thing I've ever released. Thank you, Sir Bikes a Lot, for $2. Did a paper on peak oil. U.S. peaked back in 1970. Oh, send me the paper. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. So I'm not huffing and puffing. I'm telling you, the story that is going to be coming out is the biggest thing I've ever worked on. I think it's the most stunning level of corruption I've ever found. Jen helped me, so it's we found. I think it has the potential to change the situation in Flint if enough of you get it out there and raise a stink. I think it is evidence of blatant corruption, of an environmental cover-up that we have not seen in recent years, of lies and deceit. And I'm trying to get it out as soon as humanly possible. So thank you very much for your support, whether it's Patreon, of course, to all those that are already subscribed. It's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. That's what's going to help us keep growing. Eventually, soon, my Patreon will become Status Quo's Patreon, because you're not going to just be supporting me. You're going to be supporting the team around me, which includes Jen and Ty and ultimately other people once we get more funding. So thank you, and I really, really need your support when this story comes out, sharing it wherever you can, and raising a stink. And thank you to those who are contributing to the Super Chat. And yeah, thanks for watching. So I'll also have some behind-the-scenes videos to put up on the Patreon this week. Jen and I want to do a video call with Patreons this week. So a lot of things going on. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching. Peace out.